Howdy folks, let's have some chili. Get a big pot out here. And we are going to use a little bit of peanut oil in this pan. And I hate this oil dispenser because it's not half broken. This bought it at Walmart. Thank you, Walmart, for selling me cheap crap. Bought these guys at Kohl's. They're fine. They fit in there tight. You can actually use them. But hey, whatever. So we're going to go on about, I don't know, medium heat, and we are going to have 3 pounds. Go big or go home. 3 pounds of ground sirloin. You can use ground beef. Doesn't really matter. I actually make 2 kinds of chili. This is kind of the, I don't know, the chili when you think of what your mom makes. This was basically how chili was in my house. Basically. So we'll break that up. Let that get to browning. And this will take a while, so we're probably going to pause the video, I would say. If you're using ground beef, you might want to think about draining off the fat once it gets cooked. But this is 90-10, so I really don't see any reason to do it. I've got an onion here, or part of an onion that I had in the refrigerator. I'm going to use that up in addition to a whole onion. And we're going to just go ahead and knock that down a little bit. The other kind of chili that I make, I'm probably going to make another video of that because it's good as well. It's more of a, call it Texas style. If there's no beans, I use a whole chuck roast, a 3-pound chuck roast, and cook that. Usually cook it in the crock pot because that roast takes a while to get nice and tender. Whereas this won't take any time at all. It's already tender. But as I say, if you're using ground beef, you might want to brown it up and drain off the fat, and then put in your vegetables. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and dump that stuff in there right now. Because I want it all to get the flavor of it. Come on. Okay. Usually, I've seen 8 million different ways of prepping a green pepper. I like this way. Some people say you've got to get all that white stuff out. Don't get too picky with it. It's all good. Knock some of the seeds out. Okay. Add a little salt to this. About a good pinch. Chop this guy up. I don't get crazy about my sizes. You hear people on cooking shows say you've got to get it all even and blah 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 so it cooks evenly. Yeah, well, we're cooking this for an hour, so who cares? I don't really get that. I've never worked in a restaurant, so I don't have that mentality, I guess. But we'll get this here as well. Can you see that? Or maybe you don't. Let me see if you see it. Nope. You do not see the clock. The clock says 11:52. Yes, it is 11:52 at night. I am making chili. That's how I roll, baby. Spoon. Not that one. Not that one. Alright, so we'll let this get nice and brown. And we'll come back. That'll take about 10 minutes. More around in there. A little bit further on here. It's looking good. Looking mighty good. I covered it up to speed up the process a little bit. Let's add a little garlic here. Just a touch. What is that? 5 cloves. Something extravagant like that. Done. It's starting to look right here. I'll chop it up a little bit. Keep the pieces kind of big. You can over chunk them, so it's just mush. Cover it back up, and we'll see you in a minute. All right, it's about ready, but I'm gonna let that liquid cook away a little bit more before we start adding the other stuff. Back in a minute. All right, that's good enough. Let's add the rest of this stuff. I'm going to do a jalapeno into it. I'm leaving the seeds in. I want a decent amount of heat. I don't like my chili. I mean, it depends. I like my chili pretty doggone hot, but I don't like it to the point where I just can't even hardly taste it. I'm going to dice these up kind of small. And I tell you what, this ceramic knife is the best. It just, none of that, you know, when you're cutting something like this, you end up with a bunch of pieces stuck together by the skin. This just cuts everything nice and clean. I'm going to dice this up pretty small. It's going to cook the whole time, so I mean, once it cooks, and believe me, I'm going to wash my hands right after this. Right after this. So as not to get staining eyes. Alright. Honestly, I've never made this recipe in this particular pan. Normally I use 4 cans of diced tomatoes and 4 cans of beans. I don't know if all that's going to fit. So I'm going to start out with 2 cans of tomatoes. And that's just diced tomatoes. It's nothing special. That's got basil, garlic, and oregano. I think you can get the chili ready, but I like this with, and it's got chili peppers in it, but I like this because it's a little more generic. You can use it in whatever. Whereas the chili stuff is kind of, you know, you use it in chili. And that's about it. Give that a stir. And we are going to use a can of mixed beans. That's Pinto and Great Northern. Some people would say drain those, but I'm not one of those people. And then a can of black beans. I like black beans because they seem to be sweeter than regular Pintos and whatnot. Yeah, that'll hold. That'll hold the rest of my stuff. Because this is pretty much it. Let's tell you what. Let's go ahead and, before we add that stuff though, we're going to add all the seasonings and whatnot. We're going to go with, this is all dried. I'm going to go with marjoram. Come on. Yeah, let's do this. About a teaspoon or so, maybe a little more. Gonna use some chipotle pepper. Use about like that. It's pretty stout stuff, but it is good. A little bit of Cholula. I like that as a hot sauce because it's not super hot. It's got a lot of flavor. All right, let's see how much cayenne we're going to put in here. About like that. However much that is. I never measure. Why measure? All right. We're also going to use, what was it? Oh, chili powder. And this little jar here, I'll probably use most of that. I usually take this big spoon and fill it pretty full. A little more. That's about right. Then let it stir. All right. So what else we need in here? How about some hot pepper flakes? Shake it. That's about right. It's gonna be pretty fiery, but not too bad. It's not gonna ruin your day or your next day, for that matter. All right. Looking good already. All right, this is a trick I saw on Good Eats, Mr. Alton Brown. He's a heck of a dude. Just a thing of grocery store salsa. Dump that in there. Nope, come on in there. And I do believe we've got enough room for at least 1 can of beans and 1 can of tomatoes. So let's give that a shot, see what we get. It's going to be a full pan for sure, and we might make a little bit of a mess. I'm not too worried about it. So 1 can of tomatoes. I'm going to use the black beans. If I can only use one of them, I'm going to use the black beans. I think I'll be able to get all of them in there. I'm going to crank that heat up a little bit now. We're going to bring this to a boil. And then cover it and let it simmer for, I don't know, about an hour. You can, of course, let chili go for 3,000 years if you want. This is going to be relatively quick chili. Give that a stir. Like I say, this pan's getting pretty full. But I'm always amazed at how much this particular pan will hold. I don't know what the quart size is on it, but it's, like I say, I'm always able to get everything in that I want to get in. And actually, I was going to put beef broth in here, but I don't think I'm going to have the room or the need for that. And this final can of, here, let's give that a stir. Yeah, it's going to make a mess, but that's okay. I'll live if you will. Put this final can of beans in. I think that should be chili. What else we got back here? Anything good? I was also going to put this Fall City beer in there, but I don't think I've got room for it either. So we might put that in after all this cooks down a little bit. Oh man, that is up to the brim. I'm not even going to cover it. Yeah, probably could have used a bigger pan, but that's alright. That looks pretty good right now. I could chow down. There we go. There's the first casualty. Alright, well, we'll go ahead and bring that to a boil, and then, like I say, it'll be about an hour. We'll be back. Alright, we're about 25 minutes in here. Started boiling over pretty bad, so I took out about a cup of the liquid. Just set that aside, and I'll put it back in once the cooking's over. But looking pretty doggone good, if you ask me. Pretty good. And like I say, we got 35 minutes left. And my computer just went to screensaver, so Black Sabbath stopped singing for us. Oh, never mind. They're back. So yeah, about 35 minutes more, and we'll have some chili. All right, almost an hour. 30 more seconds. Something that I kind of wish I would have done with this is right before we started adding all the beans and tomatoes and whatnot. Should have put some flour in here just to kind of tighten that broth up. I mean, I like my chili kind of like that, but maybe a little thicker than that. So what we're going to do, there goes the timer for an hour. What we're going to do is we're going to use a stick blender, which, tell you what, this little guy here, what a great little investment that is. About 20 bucks. We're not going to get too crazy with it. You could very easily pulverize this into just a amorphous slop. We're going to just, that should be good. Get off of there. You too. Get back in there. Come on now. Alright. That should be good. Let's see here. Get that off there. Stick that off a little bit. So yeah, that kind of thickened things up a little bit, but it's still, you know, there's still beans in there. It's fine. Then the very last thing, but like I say, you can see that it's a little more thick. Last thing, we're going to take some cilantro. that up a little bit. You don't have to get too crazy with it. Just kind of wad it up tight like that. I love the smell of cilantro. Like I say, you don't have to get too crazy with it. Right at the very last, you do that. I mean, at the very, 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 very last. You can actually, if you want to, put some cilantro in at the outset, and then add this at the last, like this. Kind of a double blast of it. Let's serve a little bit of that up, shall we? Alright, where is, we'll just use a 1/4 cup measure or 1/2 cup measure, it's no big deal. Wait a second, give it a stir here. I tasted this a little bit ago and it was just about the right amount of heat. I'm going to have about a cup, I don't need that much right now because it is 1:27 in the morning. We're going to add a few oyster crackers because they're delicious. Just a couple. There we go. Let's check this out. That's hot. I'm going to talk about the perfect amount of heat. It's not, kind of creeps up on you. Doesn't make you choke right as soon as you eat it. I used to put a habanero in my chili, and it just made it too hot. I mean, some people like it that way, but I don't know. It's just, there's hot and then there's just stupid hot. And that was stupid hot. But that is mighty good. Let's see here. We can also, I can get in here. You can do whatever you want with it. Cheese, sour cream, some jalapenos, pickled jalapenos. Of course, as you can see, I've made enough to feed an army. I'll freeze this in individual portions, a lot of it, and then eat the rest of it over the next couple of days. But hey, that's chili. I believe we're done. I mean, it's only 1:30 in the morning. I think it's time to, call it a night, Nancy, don't you think? See y'all later.